Many thanks for staying with us here on News. Let's do some more stories. Now, in the national security, we'll soon have the legal right to tap, listen, record, and monitor your telecommunication messages if it's successful in getting the parliamentary passage of the Interception of Postal Packets and Telecommunication Bill 2015. Now, the bill, according to proponents, is to fight crime in all forms, including money laundering, terrorism, narcotics trafficking, and identity theft.
The bill is awaiting the consideration and report of the Defense and Interior Committee to kickstart processes to pass it into law. The issue of invasion of privacy, a possible infringement on the constitutional provision on privacy and confidentiality agreement between telecom service providers and their customers are at risk. Member of Parliament for Kaikwe Central, Patrick Boama, wants stakeholder engagement before the law is passed.
To the extent that it complies or conforms with the provisions of the Constitution, I wouldn't have a problem with it. That is why the public must be educated enough to understand that they are going about their day-to-day activity, their telephone conversation, their text messages are not read or listened to. Because if you look at the long title of the bill and also a provision in the bill, one of the clauses, especially with the interpretation of what intercept means, to listen, hear, tamper with people's conversation, we ought to be educated more on it. We ought to be sure of what the intelligence agencies are going to be doing.
The Member of Parliament for Mpraeso, Seth Echampon, who is also a member of the Defense and Interior Committee, says members are yet to be served with copies of the memorandum for consideration of the bill to take off.
Per my communication, our clerks are yet to fully advertise it to us in terms of offering us the specific bills for us to go read before we go into committee and then report for second reading. So we're just in the first reading. Nothing has happened.
So are you saying that you are not aware of the details of the bill as of now?
Oh, yes. We are yet to be briefed, first and foremost, by the sponsoring agency as a committee, because we need to, before we report to plenary for second reading to be adopted, we must and we need to sit in committee with the sponsors of the bill for them to offer us what they purpose to do, what they purport to do as a policy in respect of that particular legislation.
So, indeed, this telecoms bill has gotten a lot of eyeballs rolling. But today on the show, I want to take you through what this bill really entails. At least we have a copy of that draft document, and my director is going to put that on your screens pretty shortly. I'm going to walk up to the screen and show you really how things are supposed to be like. So, this is the bill. If you can see this here, it's a bill entitled Interception of Postal Packets and Telecommunication Messages Act 2015. Now, it says the act to provide for the interception of postal packets, telephone or other electronic or cyberspace communication for the purpose of protecting national security, fighting crime generally, and in particular suppressing organized crime, including money laundering, terrorism, narcotic trafficking, and other serious offenses, and for related matters. That was what I read to you earlier. Now, passed by Parliament and assented to by the President. Now, the application is that this act applies only to public postal services and public telephone or other electronic or cyberspace communication services. Now, purposes for the interception, and really, indeed, this is the reason we are being told. This is what we are told to be the main reason why this thing should be coming into fruition anytime soon. Now, it says a person may for the purpose of A, protecting national security. Now, B, fighting crime generally. C is suppressing organized crime, including money laundering, terrorism, or narcotic trafficking. Or D, other serious offense. I mean, many people, many commentators have argued about this particular clause here. I mean, it says other serious offense. What constitutes other serious offense? But this is just one page of that document. Let's move on to the next page of that very same draft that I've been speaking to you about. And it continues to tell us much more on that. Let's go to page 3 of the document, rather. Okay, that's fine. So I have page 3 of the document here. So it also says intercept a postal packet, telephone message, or other electronic or cyberspace communication message that person has lawful authority to intercept. Let's come to the prohibition of unlawful interception. Really, at the point, I mean, concerns were raised about the fact that people may actually abuse this service. Some persons who do not have the legal right to even intercept certain documents may abuse it and use this very same act or law to invade people's privacy. So now let me go to this prohibition clause in that same draft. Now the prohibition of unlawful interception says, clause 1 says, a person shall not without lawful authority intentionally intercept a postal packet, telephone message, or other electronic or cyberspace communication message in the course of the transmission or storage of the postal packet or message. So let me take that once more. It says, a person shall not, without lawful authority, intentionally intercept a postal packet, telephone message, or other electronic or cyberspace communication message in the course of transmission or storage of the postal packet or message. Okay, let me move on to the second one. It says, a person who contravenes subsection 1 in relation to a postal packet commits an offense and is liable on summary conviction to a fine of not more than 250 penalty units or to a term of imprisonment of not more than 2 years, or actually to both. The B says a telephone or other electronic or cyberspace communication message commits an offense and is liable on summary conviction to a fine of not more than 5,000 penalty units or a term of imprisonment of not more than 10 years, or to both. Okay, so at least that's some breathing space for those of you who are particularly worried about this. So to point 3 of that very same prohibition clause in there, it says, for the purpose of subsection 1, interception is with lawful authority if it is done in accordance with sections 30 and 31 of the Postal and Courier Services Regulatory Commission Act 2003. So essentially what this whole thing is saying is that aside the fact that, yes, indeed, this act for now, if passed into law, is going to give people direct access to your privacy, certain things you deem as very private and very personal. There are still a lot of clauses in there that seeks to protect you. I'll be coming back to this and be bringing you a lot more on that, but let me bring you the soundbite of Member of Parliament for Esujaman, Honorable Osei, who has been speaking to my colleague Roland Walker on the AM show on this very same bill that is currently before Parliament.
It is time for us to have a law that regulates the use of such information like telecommunication, communication going from to the telcos, the providers or those service providers. They hold the information as it is now. They are able to intercept. And now how we use the records or the communication that are held on their equipment is what we are talking about. Now the use of it in terms of people's privacy is another issue. Now how we manage the records, in fact, like SMS, email, Viber, WhatsApp, these are all communications that are held on the equipment and can be accessed. Now currently, when you get a phone or you get a chip.
Okay, so that was Member of Parliament for Esujaman there, Honorable Osei. I was speaking to my colleague Roland Walker on the AM show, and also quite a number of people have been speaking about this issue. Now let's take a listen to this cyber expert, Maximus Ametogo, who was also this morning speaking on the AM show. He's been speaking to Mamavi Usoboji, sharing his thoughts on this particular law.
The Constitution ensures that your information is kept private and secret. You have the right to privacy, which must not be infringed by the government or the security agencies. So if, for example, Kofi goes to steal a car and they want to follow up on Kofi, so they pick his mobile phone, they want to check the information on it, that one is investigation, so it's allowed. But for you to put devices on telecommunication systems to monitor people's conversation and transmission of such messages, it's an infringement of the person's privacy. So if you want to monitor Kofi's stealing of a car, what other information are you privy to? So he's not going to talk about car every day, and he's not going to share pictures of cars. So who protects his privacy or other aspects of him as a citizen? Because even thieves have right. You have to take the person to court, then the court must prefer some judgment or punishment for the person. So for this bill to be passed or rushed through Parliament, because it just came to the system and we're told to offer contributions within 4 days, and we don't even know where the bill is even located, or you can't even find the bill.
Okay, so here's
online.
my information.
Yes.
There's going to be the first reading.
Okay.
It's going to also go before a committee,
Yes.
and the committee has up to like 3 months. So this is not going to be rushed at all. There will be a second reading, there will be a third reading before the debates.
Yeah, if the thing is concerning the Ghanaian citizen, it should be opened to the Ghanaian citizen, not just
the people in Parliament are the Ghanaian representatives.
Yes, but I know they work for a government. Okay, they work for a government, so they won't represent Maximus for the rest of my life. They represent me for only 4 years.
I beg to differ. That's your opinion, but I beg to differ. These are people who are representing different political parties, at least 2 major political parties in Parliament.
Law they are going to pass concerning me, that somebody can put a device on the network I'm using to listen to my calls, to even intercept my messages, whether I'm a criminal or not. I think they are not being fair, and it infringes on the right or the privacy of the user of a telecommunication service.
Okay, I'll come back to, so what should we do, in your opinion? But you've read this. What do you think the Ghanaians should know about this bill?
I think there should be an open forum so that we deliberate on it, and the extent to which even the national security or national coordinator, the security coordinator has, he can go to a court and get a warranty to intercept or fix a device on the system to monitor calls. Now, you don't know the number of calls that that particular warrant, even though they will say, okay, go and monitor Maximus's communication.
And that was a cyber expert and an IT guy who has been speaking on this very same act, which we are told very soon might become a law. But let's still stay on this draft. And now the question on the minds of many is really, how does one get access to my data, my personalized data? How on earth can one just get up and have access to it? Okay, so I'm going to read to you what the Act says. Now, the Act says the application for authorization shall be in writing and submitted by the public officer. A, authorized for that purpose where it is made on behalf of any of the persons specified in subsection 2 or nominated for the purposes of the authorization by the National Security Coordinator. And indeed, if you read a bit more about this very same act, I mean, it gives you the specifications as to who exactly can have access to this document, who can actually petition for this, who can go ahead and bring it out. We'll be bringing you all that subsequently, but the application shall include sufficient information to enable the National Security Coordinator determine whether the conditions required for the grant of authorization to obtain an interception warrant have been satisfied. Now, upon the receipt of application, a public officer nominated by the National Security Coordinator shall receive applications for authorization for obtaining an interception warrant. The officer shall, A, consider the application and make any inquiries that are necessary, and B, submit to the National Security Coordinator a report signed by that officer stating in the opinion of the officer whether or not the conditions required for an interception warrant have been actually satisfied. So let's fast forward, and I want to take you to page 7 of this very same document. I mean, it also speaks of quite a number of interesting things, and I brought you a bit of the sanctions that are available, sanctions that are actually available, and some things that seek to protect you, the ordinary citizen out there, who you might think your rights are being violated. There are a number of things, and I brought you a bit of that. I want to bring you a lot more on this, and just a bit more on how someone can actually have access to this. So maybe we can scroll up a bit, and then I can, okay, so contents of an interception warrant. Okay, so an interception warrant shall bear, that's A, bear the date on which the authorization to which the interception warrant relates was given. It shall B, state whether the proposed interception is in relation to a postal packet or telecommunication message or both. C, state that the requirements of this act in relation to the authorization to which the warrant relates have been complied with. And D, specify the postal address and, where necessary, the person to whom the proposed interception relates to, the telecommunication address or cyber address to which the proposed interception relates. And E, set out the numbers, apparatus or other factors that are to be used to identify the postal packet or telecommunication message that is to be intercepted. So really, this thing seems to be getting a lot of people quite worried, essentially. But as to really how, in the end, it's going to play out, we are still yet to know. And we are trying our lines to get some of these telcos as well, and the telecoms chamber, indeed, to speak to some of the issues, because we are told that they've also expressed some form of resentment. They are not too happy about this particular bill that is currently being considered before the House. And do keep your tabs here on Joy News. Make sure you leave your channel here, because we'll be bringing you a lot more on this particular bill, particularly on our news analysis program, The Pulse, which is at 3 p.m. on this very same channel. You're still watching News Desk here on your Joy News channel on More TV. We're taking a break. When we come back, we'll bring you a few more stories before we go.